So we are expecting some speakers, Dr. Indra Parikh on the special address. We won't be having Mr. Rahul joining us today because he had some work with the minister today, so he was caught up in an official engagement. But we have his address. We'll be playing it for today. And then we have Professor Parvinder and Ayushi joining us. So we'll wait for a few minutes on that.
In the meantime, I think we'd love to know about the scope of work that Sutantra does and the other partners here. We'd love to learn more about that.
Sure. Naveen, maybe you can just go ahead with that.
Yeah. So basically, guys, welcome you all. It's nice connecting with you all globally. Just to give a brief background, what 3Q Sutantra we do is we are edtech startup in India, and we basically focus more on technical, educational, bridging the skill gap between the corporate and the campus. And we have been collaborated with a couple of institutions and universities in Karnataka, as well as in a couple of other states as well. So our major focus of area is infra management service. That is our the expertise where we come. So it's more about bridging the skill gap, as I mentioned today. Whatever the opportunities we have globally, so we want to give the platform and opportunity for today's young students, right? So where they can get up their technical as well as non-technical skills, what industry expects. So that's where we stand in between corporate as well as campus. We help both. We stand as a bridge. So that is where we come. And personally, to tell about myself, I passionate of doing all this kind of activities, especially skill-based activities, technical programs, webinars, 24 hours hackathon kind of an events. So that is where my passion come. Professionally, I'm a IT manager, but personally, if you ask me, I love to be with the campus, with the students, with the faculties, doing a lot of skill-based activities. So this is nice.
Interesting, considering that there really is so much scope to solve for in the skilling ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'd love to connect. We'd love to connect, considering Rotaract is also a youth community, and our primary, most of us are young professionals and finishing college and transitioning into the professional world. And that demands a lot of skills that obviously mainstream education fails to provide on so many levels. So we'd love to understand more about what we can do together. So
certainly
thank you.
We'll connect who's this meeting, and we'll find the pathways.
Yeah. Thanks for that. We have Professor Parvinder, Dr. Parvinder from University of Western Australia. And we have Ayushi as well, who's a student at Monash University and serves in the academic board. Welcome to the webinar. And Dr. Parvinder and Ayushi, these are all our partners and speakers for today. I'm sure all of you do recognize each other through the creatives. I'll just quickly introduce everyone. We have Dr. Susie from Monash University. We have Mr. Dilip, who is one of our community partners from VAccess Learning. Then we have Sharanya and Surya from Rotaract. And we have Mr. Naveen, my fellow convener over here. And that's Mr. Sai Karthik, who is the Deputy Registrar from NMIMS Chandigarh. Yeah. So Karthik, would you like to talk about your experience in RMIT? I'm sure you would like to share to all our panelists who are based out. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, I've done my master's at RMIT between 2017 and 2019. And I've done my master's in project management. Most of my complete 2 years, it was more of an exploring what the university is providing apart from the education. So I've been in the student union over there. I contested as a postgrad officer. I've been done that role for a year, organized various events. Then representing RMIT, we were part of CAPA, Council for Australian Postgraduate Association, where we have started few initiatives which were recognized through CAPA back then. And apart from that, the second role which I had taken up during my RMIT days was as an academic board member for postgrad students. So it was a rich experience, I would say. rather than only one aspect, which I would say education or this thing, more of a networking aspect is one thing which I gained a lot over there. And student experiences, networking, then reaching out to various cultures, I would say. It's not only like one particular demography which we are representing over there. During RMIT, we had some huge postgrad strength, both the masters and postdoc students, doctorate students, and everything. So experiencing, learning their things and everything has enlarged my view but with respect to academic administration and curriculum aspects. So that's how I'm still continuing in the academic domain itself. My experiences back there from Australia and the learnings which I got over there. So yeah.
I think Karthik also comes with an expertise of working with the Indian School of Business as well in Hyderabad. He has worked previously in the academic side, right, Karthik?
Yes, I've been with associated with ISB Hyderabad for 4 years as a teaching associate.
That's wonderful. Thank you with that. Namaste, ma'am. Hope you can hear us.
Yes, I can.
Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste. Is
Ma'am,
that you,
introduce-
is that Karthik?
Yes, that's Mr. Karthik,
Yes,
one of
ma'am.
us.
Okay.
Yes. I'd like to introduce everyone to Dr. Indra J. Parekh, the former Dean of IIM Ahmedabad, and also the founding president of academics at Flame University in India. So, ma'am, these are all our panelists and partners who have joined us today all across the world. And we have the students coming in mainly from India. So we have panelists like, we have Dr. Suzy, who is from Monash University. She is the director of the Monash Innovation Guarantee and also serves as a focal point to the UNFCCC. We have Professor Parvinder Kaur, who is also associate professor from University of Western Australia. Aishi is a student at Monash University, and Mr. Karthik is from NMIMS Chandigarh. And we have all our partners, Mr. Dilip, Sharanya, and Surya as well. And we have all our audiences present over here. So with this, I think we'd like to get this started forward. Yeah, Naveen, I think you can begin with the opening remarks.
Yeah, thanks. I think we already opened with the remarks. I think
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure it's a very, yeah,
We'll keep it very short and simple so that we will have much time for our discussion. So,
Right.
so once again, good afternoon, good evening, the team and the partners and the people who are present over here. So it's again a great pleasure for me to welcome you all for this international meet on higher education in Australia for Indians. On behalf of International Women for Technology and Research Forum, I welcome all our esteemed partners and I welcome all the participants and our institutional partner, who is Raj Bahadur Venkatraman Reddy College, and our community partners, Circular Seeds Private Limited, and we have VAccess Learning Private Limited India, Equal Trade Alliance Netherlands, for your valuable support in bringing this event together. And we are also honored to collaborate with such a dedicated organization to support the students and the international who wants to be, the students who wants to pursue their international journeys. Today we also have our special guest. It's again every time it's my privilege to welcome Indra J. Parekh ma'am, who is very, very close to us, very loved to us, because whenever we ask madam permission that madam, we want to do this kind of a program, and she will be the first member to say that yes, go ahead, I'll stand with you. So today we will have the privilege to hear from you, ma'am, and just to give a brief background, I think Shreyas, you already covered. Madam is a renowned leader in international education, and she has been instrumental in shaping a global academic pathway for students. Her vast experience in education sector and her dedication to empower students will set the perfect tone for today's discussion. And it's again a truly honor to have you with us, ma'am, and we look forward to hear your inspiring words and your expertise. We have a lot of students community, faculty community presence in today's program, and it's again one more great honor for us, because previously we had conducted a lot of programs like Fire Summit and international conferences. So Madam has given a lot of insight to us. So we also have, we are thrilled today as well to hear from you, ma'am. And followed by we have Rahul Pachori's message to us, because I think today he had got some meeting and couldn't present physically here, but we have a message from Rahul's office, and we will play that for everyone's reference. And later we will go with our today's important discussion, that's our panel. So we got nice panelists from the globe. So I think Shreyas can take over that part. So without making much delay, I welcome Madam Indra Parikh to address our special gather. Madam, over to you.
Thank you, Naveen. How much time do I have? So I will keep my time boundary.
Ma'am, we love to hear much as possible.
Yes, but there are panelists, so you give
Yeah.
me the time frame.
I believe,
ma'am,
ma'am, 10
15
minutes would be great. 10 to 15 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much,
Good.
Shreyas.
Thank
Shreyas,
you, ma'am.
first of all, I must thank you for inviting me. I'm honored and privileged to be with the panelists you have selected across the world. It is a pleasure to be with all the panelists. You've already named everybody, so I'm not repeating the names. But my co-panelists, I'm very happy to be with you, and I hope we have a good discussion. Shreyas, you have been working very hard on all of this, and I must say your energy is very catching. And there is it's almost impossible to say no to you, because you are so enthusiastic and passionate about what you are doing for last so many years. I've seen you really grow into the idea and develop more and more larger contextual ideas, so that there is some insights coming out of it, out of everything that you have done. Now, let me begin by saying, what is education? See, education institution is the soul of the country. But education per se is the soul of the universe. Because the education begins right from the womb to the child, when the child is born and starts growing. There is a non-formal education, which is learned from the mother, which is primary education. And then it is the formal education, which is the secondary education, which begins from the schools. And now there is a third kind of education emerging, which is global education. And the topic you have made is education for women in Australia. Now, when the education, if you take the domain knowledge, it cannot be very different across the world. It is available across the world. You need to know certain basic things. So that is globally available and all have to go through. Now, when a group of people, community like women from one country go to another country, there are several things which need to be understood. That the meanings we give to the same word across cultures are very, very different. So when women go to Australia, they must understand the meaning of what the word means, because it may change the entire perspective or entire way of relating to that culture and to that country. We go with certain myths and certain beliefs about each other's country, just as much we have myths and beliefs, evaluation, judgments about each other, we have about each other's countries as well. So I think we need to give up the evaluation and judgment and go to a country with an open mind, to understand what the whole country and the culture is about and how the country and the culture has evolved. Let me give you an example. For example, when I went to Papua New Guinea for an assignment with the UN, everybody said, oh, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. I was kind of bombarded with fear of going into that, stepping into that country. And I was told, don't open the door, let the food be put on the ground. When you hear the steps walking away, then open the door and take the food in for yourself. But I decided that is a very much a view, collective view of people of a certain race and color. So I decided I'm not going to do any of these things. What I discovered first was that in Papua New Guinea, they respect teachers. So I would always have a book and a writing pad in my hand. And when I went I went down to the restaurant for the dinner, though I was advised not to. And because I was sitting alone and eating very little, because my food diet is very little compared to the other people. So there were several managers who came and says, "Madam, is the food not good?" I said, "The food is good, but I'm a small eater." And I had no problem conversing with people, and I conversed with them about the food, about the culture, about the people, about the society. And I discovered that they respected teachers very much, and they respected women also very much. So I had no fear after that. So one gets a lot of mythology about a country and about a culture from secondary sources, and especially from the media. They have all kinds of statements to make, and they take one incident and make it the totality of the country, or maybe one experience and makes it the totality of the country, which does not make really good sense. So if the teaching has to be done, then what has to be done is that the Australian teachers must learn something about the Indians, and especially about the Indian women's situation in the culture. And it is generally given a very low negative view about Indian women are not allowed this, not allowed this, not allowed this. But ours is an ancient civilization, and we have all kinds of role models. We have good role models, we had bad role models, we have compliant role models, we have assertive role models. So being an ancient civilization, there would be a lot of diversity in terms of women's taking role and the way the women learn in any culture. So the teachers who teach them must need to be prepared, actually prepared about what the Indian women are and how they learn and how they are socialized and what they internalize. And they must also understand in the context of the country, culture, and history. We take something from history and put it here and now today. That does not make sense, because now the changes are so many. And Indian women, if you look at the boards, generally are much in the higher sector. They are the top 10. They get into ranks. So what was said about Indian women 50 years ago is not the same today. And therefore, the reality appraisal needs to be done about Indian women in the context of Indian education system. Now, it does not mean that Indian education system is perfect. It has been influenced by the colonial culture, and therefore there is a lot of things which need to be changed to really discover the strengths and the positivities of the Indian students. Now, Indian students per se, and their value system and their way of relating to people is very different. This gender boy-girl relationship is very, very different from anywhere across the world. What they are taught, what they are told, the myths which have developed is very, very different with Indian women. So that needs to be understood when the Indians girls go to the Australia and how they get settled down. Now, so far, it would be anywhere. When the American students used to come to IIM when I was teaching there, their way of relating to women was also very different. They are a lot more forward, they are a lot more open, they are a lot more they're not afraid of touching, and they don't give meanings to what that touch means. But Indian women not used to this kind of behavior start giving different meanings. I think so. Indian girl students, before they leave India, if they have a session on how to, what it means to be in Australia, it would make it very easy for them to settle down, adjust, and not make mistakes about the meanings of relationships and the meanings of how the culture operates in Australia. Now, Australia is a very open-ended culture. I have been there. It's a beautiful culture. It's a beautiful country. And they must also be advised to visit meet people, talk to people, and visit different parts of the country to get a feel of what the dynamic, thriving culture it is, and how in that culture they could adjust, accommodate, and appreciate the culture which they are going. They must also learn some good points from the Australian culture. And that is not necessarily just a domain knowledge or just a knowledge. That comes anyway. But the best learning is some of the good things which they have, which they can bring it in, incorporate in their lives. So it is very important if there is a kind of a learning for the Australian teachers who are going to teach them and the Indian students who are going to go there, it would be a lot more beneficial, lot more appropriate, and the learning and the understanding would be a lot better between the two cultures, and the learning will be a lot more. That is what I would like to say for the present. And as I said earlier, education across the world today is changing. It's changing because of technology. It is changing because of the kind of transformations which are occurring in the society. And the entire world stands today both at the crossroad and the threshold of education. Threshold of education because of technology has changed quite a bit, and crossroad because of the diversity and the across the cultures, people going for education. A lot of understanding needs to be acquired to make it very meaningful, relevant, and very dynamic. That is what I would like to say. Your topic is very relevant because technology has changed a whole lot of things. I mean, just look, sitting in my home, in my study, I am talking to you in Australia. Now, so much has changed in the learning situation. And situations, for example, COVID pressurized people into learning technology to be able to converse and to be able to continue their learning. Long distance learning has happened because of the kind of events which have taken place in society. So society pressurizes people and to develop technology so that the learning can continue and can be managed. And a lot of interaction across cultures are taking place by the kind of efforts you are making. And this effort is very important because the world is becoming multi-global. Multi-global means across the cultures, across the countries, people relate to each other. They would like to relate to each other. Marriages are taking place across the culture, across many, many diversity. And if they understand each other's culture, the chances are that the learning becomes, and the learning for their children becomes very important. So educational institutions is one kind of learning. And when cross-cultural marriages take place, that kind of learning also is very important because it involves many, many things, many aspects of life. If it's across religion, across countries, across color, across even the education system, it's very important to be sensitive and be understanding rather than evaluative and judgmental. You cannot compare India with anybody else because India is an ancient civilization, few thousands years old, and have evolved over a time with 1,000 years of subjugation and now freedom. And the emphasis on education now is changing completely to being contextual. So this kind of a contextual education of India going to Australia with their contextual education, that needs to be understood quite meaningfully and relevantly. Otherwise, we give very different meanings and we feel hurt and we become evaluative and judgmental, which takes away all the positive creative experience of meeting people and interacting with people. So if you go with an open mind and you ask what you don't understand, the chances are that your journey into another country, into another educational system becomes more meaningful, relevant, and you come back with a lot of wisdom. See, if you interact positively and understand what the other country and culture is, then you develop a sense of wisdom about human existence and the whole universe. So it is very important that all the people concerned must have an open mind, must have an understanding and an acceptance of whatever is. You cannot change it. You neither can change the color, neither can you change the language, neither can you change the accent, neither can you change the food habits. But you can add on a lot of things to yourself to be able to be meaningful and relevant to you and the country you go to. And you must go to another country with a mind to add something and not evaluate and judge. That becomes very important. Shreyas, what you have started, I really appreciate and say, please continue whatever you are doing. And this cross-cultural thing is very important because, see, if you don't understand, then there is a conflict. Conflict turns into a war turns into deaths. It begins at the education level of acceptance of other people and not get caught with saying, I want this and I want another country is lesser than me. It is, I think this is somehow coded into us from childhood. And as we grow into learning knowledge, we acquire evaluation and judgments about other country. So now the domain knowledge also needs to redefine themselves to helping people understand that cultures, that's all part of our earth. Earth has a lot of diversity and our planet has the most richness about different people, different cultures, different foods, different clothes. So we need to appreciate rather than say one is higher, one is lower, one is poor, one is richer, one is this or that. I think we should begin from here and now of saying, okay, let us begin to understand each other and then move forward. Maybe then there will be tranquility, there will be peace, and the learning would be much more exciting and enduring of whatever we learn. You have any questions? I think my 15 minutes are done.
Thank you so much.
You.
Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Like I say, every time it's quite enlightening to hear from you. I think this is not the first time we're having Professor Indra Parikh with us at the higher education event, but collaboratively in the last couple of years, me and my fellow convener, Mr. Naveen, have been organizing through 3Q and Bodhan Foundation on different topics of industry meets, industry academia meets, and then the 5i summit as well. And I think we have been doing it with different contexts and different countries, with Africa and India as well. And I think this is the first time in Australia as well we are doing with ma'am. So we are so glad to have you over here. And thank you so much for your special address, ma'am. Now, as we move forward, we'll have a small introduction of Mr. Rahul Pachori, who's the Director of the Ministry of Education, Government of India. So to keep it very short, Mr. Rahul has an expertise of instrumentally collaborating and successfully working with the World Bank on the extremely aided project of strengthening teaching, learning, and results for states. He has provided notable contributions in the implementation of the flagship scheme in India, which is called as the Samagra Shiksha, which was put up across all the states and union territories. And Mr. Pachori also plays a very pivotal role in shaping policies and initiatives to enhance the landscape of India. Now we'll have a short address being played by Mr. Rahul Pachori. Thank you. I think, Naveen, we can't hear Mr. Rahul. Would you mind
Is it not audible?
mute yourself? You can maybe unmute and play.
Is it not
Yeah.
audible?
No, it's not audible. Maybe you can.
His voice is very less on my.
Yeah. Maybe you can just give me a minute. I'll try to maybe connect it through the other side. Yeah.
Those in Australia already, good evening. A belated happy Diwali to all of you. I am honored to join today in the discussion on the opportunity.
Naveen, we can't hear Mr. Rahul. I think you need to keep yourself unmuted.
I thank Mr. P. Shreyas, who was kind enough to invite me to today's discussion. Well, this is a topic which is very close to all of our hearts. I mean, if you see studying abroad offers a unique experience, access to cutting edge research, world class infrastructure, exposure to diverse cultural perspectives. See, education has become a cornerstone for the partnership of India and Australia, with the new gift city that has come up in Gujarat state of India. Even Australian universities such as Deakin have come to India with their own campus. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to highlight the incredible opportunities that are available for Indian students who are aspiring to go abroad, and this support is provided by the government of India. Programs like the ICCR scholarships, the Prime Minister's special scholarship schemes are helping students to reach new heights, not just funding the education, but investing in the actual intellectual capital of India. The Australia Award Scholarship stands as a testament to international cooperation, offering comprehensive support that covers tuition, living expense, and even international travel. For young engineers, technologists, and researchers, these opportunities represent more than just academic pursuits. They are bridges to global innovations, international networking, etc. By supporting our students into their academic journeys, particularly in technologically advanced nations like Australia, we are positioning India's future intellectual workforce. Our government is fully committed to all such pursuits. In a globalized world, studying and working abroad cannot be a one-way departure, but it is an eternal exchange. An enriching exchange which leads to studying, working internationally, enabling students to absorb various best practices and understanding global challenges. Thus, in a nutshell, to every aspiring student, I say that your potential is boundless. Use these opportunities to represent India on a global stage and contribute to the future of innovation, progress, and sustainability. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for hearing that. I hope it was quite audible to each one of you. Sorry about the limitations of the audio, but we're sure that Mr. Rahul couldn't make it over here, but is a
You're frozen, Shreyas.
Yeah, I think he got some network issue.
Yes.
Let me try reconnecting.
So sorry about that. I think I was just talking to myself while I got frozen. Yeah. Yeah. So am I audible, Naveen?
Yes, it's good. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for confirming. So, like I said, Mr. Rahul has strongly elaborated and elucidated on the Australia-India relations at the government perspective. He works closely at the Ministry of Education at the central government in India, and I'm sure that he's a very good well-wisher for what we're going to take forward, and this webinar is going to lead us to through a lot of fruitful discussions. Now, to begin with the panel discussion, we are at 6:30 p.m. Melbourne timing and 1 p.m. Indian Standard Timing at the moment for everyone's reference. We have today our audiences who have joined in with a mix of graduates, working professionals from the field of science, technology, management, and arts. So we have diverse audiences who have come through our partner institutions and with the support of community partners who have been able to leverage this through. To begin with the introductions, we have our first panelist, Dr. Parvinder Kaur, the Director of DNA Zoo Australia and Associate Professor from the University of Western Australia. Dr. Parvinder is a renowned scientist, educator, and advocate for STEM with extensive experience in genetics and conservation genomics. She has pioneered accessible platforms for genome mapping, contributing significantly to biodiversity conservation and sustainable biotechnology. We welcome you to the panel, Dr. Parvinder. We have next Dr. Susie Ho, the Associate Professor, Academic Director at the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Student Experience at Monash University in Melbourne, and contact point to the UNFCCC. So Susie is passionate about creating an innovative industry focused towards educational programs with relevance to the changing world. She carries an expertise over 15 years in curriculum design and scholarly awarded research in the industry-focused education as well. A little bit more about Susie, what she has worked. She has worked with 250 industry partners from corporations, NPOs in the government and UN agencies to develop authentic curriculum in line with Article 12 of the Paris Agreement. She designs educational programs focused on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and is also a primary investigator in global projects and networks. Welcome to the panel, Susie. So glad to have you here. We have Ayushi Shah, our third panelist, the project coordinator from Fire to Flourish, academic board member and Master of Environment and Sustainability student at Monash University. Ayushi graduated from Monash with a Bachelor's of Global Studies from where she was awarded the Sir John's Medal for Outstanding Achievements. She volunteers with the Australian South Asia Centre. Her main focus goes towards projects that are pioneered around youth, sustainability, anti-racism, gender equality, leadership, and gender-based violence prevention. Welcome to the panel, Susie. Welcome to the panel, Ayushi. Sorry about that. And we have our last and final panelist, Mr. Sai Karthik, the Deputy Registrar from NMIMS Chandigarh in India. Mr. Karthik is a project management graduate from RMIT University in Melbourne, and he has worked over 7 years alongside academic institutions both in India and Australia. He is a recipient of the Alumni Grant Scheme of 2022 for the startup, which he is working along with the Indian Institute of Management in Chennai, India. And during his master's, he also got elected as a postgraduate officer for RUSU at RMIT University, and also he was part of the academic board as well. Welcome to the panel, Karthik. Glad to have you here. So I've already briefed our fellow panelists today in terms of what the rubrics would look like. We would have an individual question and common questions being posed. We would go one by one and like to hear all of you sharing more of your experiences and inputs to educate our audiences this evening. So as we begin with the common question, the first question, I'd like all of you to please elaborate a brief overview of the context of what is higher education in Australia at all disciplines and how does it play a pivotal role in shaping the careers. Please do also connect your experiences, and this is in something which we would like to also ask you to please add light to the current scenario of what education in Australia is all about. So we can start with Dr. Parvinder.
Good afternoon, everybody, and evening in Melbourne. I am in the middle time zone between India and Melbourne. I'm in Perth here in Western Australia, just approximately 3:35 in here, and we share the Indian Ocean with India, so that was one of the reasons for me to be here, choosing Perth over any other place in Australia, because I still feel the connection through the ocean that we share with India. I actually moved to Australia 18 years back to do my PhD, which is a form of higher education that Australia provides and is really, really known for a very different kind of a higher education at the doctorate level, as we are familiar with in India. So probably I'll start with that. So normally when I was studying, the format of the PhD or the doctorate degree in India was about 5 years. You do a first couple of years coursework, and then you do majority of your work in the research or the field that you choose to do in, which is a very similar system that is followed in America. However, in Australia, to my surprise, it's a very different system for doing a doctorate degree in here. It's 3.5 years, and it's purely based on the research. So I am in the biotechnology space, and it's not it's very flexible as well in terms of, like, it doesn't restrict your boundaries in terms of the disciplines like we have in other parts of the world, including our own country in India. And I'll give you an example from my space. For example, I did a Bachelor in Agriculture honors from Punjab Agricultural University. In the final year, we choose a major or a specialization subject. I chose plant protection, which is combined with entomology or plant protection from insects in generic terms, and plant protection from diseases. So it's got pathology and entomology combined in it. And as you move forward, I did a master's research degree in India, where I could only choose now between the two disciplines that I focused on in my honors year, which is very different in Australia. And then I chose entomology as my major and pathology as my minor. And after that, the only choice that I'm left to do my PhD is either of those subjects, and most likely have to go follow the entomology domain and go narrower in that. Whereas my mind worked very differently, and I wanted to explore other sides of the discipline as well. And that's what brought me to Australia on a scholarship. It's called International Postgraduate Research Scholarship at that point of time. It's called RIT scholarships now. So that's where I was able to actually go even more broader, but at the same time specialize and get really deep into the domain of the biotechnology, which worked across different disciplinary borders here in Australia. The other way Australia offers higher education, it starts right from your master's degree. And most of the Indian students, we have to come and do a master's degree before we can get admission into doctorate after the graduation program. However, in Australia, we do offer PhD straight after the honors with a graduation if you've studied in an Australian university. So that is one difference. And when you come for the higher education, you always have two streams to choose from. One is higher degree by research, and higher degree by coursework. So that's another choice that a lot of students do not know, that Australian universities provide a lot of flexibility in terms of offering the higher education. I'll be happy to add more, or if there are any specific questions, but I'll pass it on to the fellow panelists now for more.
Thank you, Dr. Parvinder. Next, can we have Dr. Susie to present her remarks?
Thank you, Shreyas. I think what I would say about what is special about studying in Australia is not only will you get a world-class academic experience, a wonderful global community at your university, but I think what is special is the opportunities that you have to build yourself as a holistic leader whilst you're studying. So there's a quote that I love that says, learning isn't learning until it's doing. And in many of the programs that we have in Australia, there will be opportunities for you to apply what you're learning with the UN, with industry, with government, to make a difference, to build yourself as a leader as well as a scholar, but also through that process to discover who you are and what your purpose is in your career ahead. So something that I would urge all of you to think about when you come into your degree in Australia is what units and opportunities, extracurricular or curricular, are there for me to build myself as a leader, and in doing so, find out what I love, find out what I don't like, find out the sector that suits me, and find out, take the time to discover as you study who you are and what your purpose may be. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Shreyas.
Thank you, Susie. Mr. Karthik?
So I've done my master's in project management back in 2017 to 2019 from RMIT University, Melbourne. And I would say the academics, which are like Indira ma'am said, we have to be going anywhere in a new place. We have to have an open mind. So that's what like a clean slate we have on over there. And basically the curriculum aspect is completely different from what we were doing over here, and not much of an exams and everything, which we are literally used to having a complete exams at the end of the semesters, going it and just, but rather we had much of a more practical approach, like even Dr. Susie was mentioning, work integrated learning programs and other aspects going on field. And because I'm from a project management background, it's more of an interactions, networking, doing of a project sort of thing, which we were doing, and assessments were based mostly on that. And building a career with respect to these are, like, I would say, the basic pillars which we could utilize for us and going into the outside world and establish ourselves. Because knowing these basic concepts which would help us in going out in the market and explore the various fields, I would say. And apart from that, the Dr. Susie has mentioned, explore the leadership skills. So that's one thing I would say, which are plenty over here in Australian universities. There are numerous clubs, associations, or even I would say unions, where student part, I would say, where you could explore and utilize this multicultural background or people from various demographies, where you could learn and implement their concepts, or you could utilize your own concepts, what you have learned or back in your basic educations and everything, and implement those things. So that on that scale, you would be exploring a lot of new things, which will help you in the way ahead. Those are the basic inputs from my end. Yeah.
Thank you, Karthik. Aishi?
Yes. Hello all. Thank you for having me, and namaste. When I thought about this question, so much of what I have to say has, been covered by previous panelists. But as someone who did their undergrad at an Australian university and someone who's currently doing their masters, I really agree with what Susie said about holistic leadership. I think higher education in Australia provides so many chances and opportunities for students to get involved in so many different aspects. I think with, from what I've understood about Indian education being very close to the curriculum and having lots of exams and assessments in that sense, Australian universities allow you to have space, even in your calendar, in the way that your units are structured, in the way the semester is structured, to look at different clubs, to look at different leadership programs. And there's a lot of emphasis and importance that is placed on that. So when Shreyas mentioned that I had graduated with the John Monash Medal as well, that was an acknowledgement of not just academic performance, but also contributions to the university's goals of human rights and social justice and environmental sustainability. So when you think about the leader you want to become in the world or the type of person you want to be, there are so many opportunities to learn and to make mistakes and to try new things as a student when you don't have so much responsibility, or when you don't, have to carry the whole weight of the world on your shoulders. You can actually try, new things and start new projects. So that's something that I really value about higher education in Australia. And I also think that topics such as, diversity, inclusion, intersectionality, anti-racism, decolonization and Indigenous learning, that is starting to become central to the curriculum. And that's something that I think Indian students or people who have value for culture and backgrounds, that's something that is flourishing here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayushi. Dr. Parvinder, this question is for you. So considering your background in the scientific world and the brief portfolio which we have elaborated and we have already shared with the audiences, what courses would you recommend the students planning to Australia to prepare as a prerequisite in terms of academic knowledge, research, and relevant work experience?
Thank you, Shiraz. That is a really good question. And I mean, most of the fellow panelists have covered how the leadership and being an all-rounder is something that Australian higher education system really, really values. So normally when I remember my university days, and it is a very similar system in India, where we get a lot of opportunities, starting from the cultural and the co-curriculum space, to sports, to participate in bigger scenarios and student unions as well, which is not very different here in Australia. But what is different here is here you're given that opportunity to seriously lead on your own, where you can seek inputs from a lot of people, but at the end of the day, you have the freedom to follow what you believe you want to continue in your life. So in that situation, I think it's just a bit of a mindset shift, rather than preparing yourself from an academic point of view. That I can give you an example from my PhD and my research experience based in India. So there in university, we get a lot of guidance through the professors, because that's exactly how we do research degrees in there. We are given a topic, and that's part of a bigger research scenario that professor or the faculty member usually leads. And normally we end up with certain projects based on the merit. And it is exactly the same criterion to get into different levels of projects here, also based on the merit. However, once you're there, you find your problem and you lead to find the solutions for that as well in your research degrees, which is very different to the kind of the hand-holding we get back in India. So there is hand-holding, but it's not like a very obvious hand-holding. You have to independently lead that space on your own, and which I really, really valued, because I think that's where I have grown the most from a professional and an academic point of view. So in terms of preparation, I would say just come prepared with an open mind, and the opportunities, and learn to say more yes to those opportunities which will come your way. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Parvinder. Professor Susie, with the expertise you have been associated with at Monash University, and as you lead as the director of the Innovation Guarantee Program, I'd like you to please share on the significance of opportunities in entrepreneurship, research, and public policy. Also, a follow-up to that, carrying your experience with the United Nations and the agencies, what initial steps do you advise for all those beginners who wish to have a career in the UN?
Thank you so much, Reyes. I think that at the undergraduate level and sometimes at the master's level, many of us can think, well, it's only after I graduate and work for a bit that I can have a contribution, that I can make a contribution to global challenges such as human rights, or to big issues like e-waste in the Pacific. But in fact, what I would say to everyone in the audience is that many Australian universities offer opportunities for you to drive change through project-based learning in an undergraduate degree or in a master's degree. To give you an example of that, I oversee 3 programs that are specially designed and offered to all students at Monash University to help you lead positive economic and social change. One allows you to go into 8 different countries to work with governments, to work with nonprofits, and to work for communities, everywhere from Italy to Vanuatu, to drive sustainable transformations. Another allows you to work with one of 80 industry partners, from the UNEP to Amnesty International and Microsoft, to create innovations in industry. And a third helps you work with world-class researchers to translate their research into policy impact in Australia and at the UN. So I would be looking for those opportunities to actually be practicing what you're learning and making a change, and being able to say on your resume, I contributed to this UN project on e-waste, or I helped with an innovation that's used by Microsoft. Now, there are great units in Australian universities where you can do that, but there are also all kinds of clubs and teams and professional associations who are looking for volunteers. And to be honest with you, my own career within the UN started with volunteering, started with building the skills with the UNEP, and now I work with the UNEP and the UNFCCC. So I think there is a lot of significant opportunities in research, in entrepreneurship, in the startup culture, in public policy, and at the UN for young people, even at an undergraduate level, to get involved. And all you need to do is start reaching out to people like me who can tap you into that. So, for example, if you're interested in the UN climate change conferences, there are youth groups you can join who present to the UN the Australian or the Indian youth perspective, and you're actually driving change. So I'd be talking to people as much as you can at your university. They're going to help tap you into those communities so you can find that in, or that first contact that will get you in the door and get you that experience that you need to start your career. Thank you, Shreyas.
Thanks, Susie. Mr. Karthik, as a graduate from Australia and a scholarship awardee, how has project management in your master's shaped your critical understanding of making a career in the field of academics and the current role you're based out?
Okay, nice. Basically, I would say project management is a basic process of planning, organizing, and executing a project. The scope might be different, but it's basically the execution of the projects and everything. One thing which I had learned during my master's and everything, and those experiences which I've been using in this present field, is how what is the curriculum, how is it to be looked at, and the student community which have been involved for a year during my postgrad, where I used to look after 15,000 odd postgrad students of RMIT University Melbourne campus. And then during my tenure at RMIT Academic Board, basically on the curriculum aspects and other things. These things have given me a certain glimpse of what is the backbone of academics, how are the student communities to be looked at, what are the issues, what are the pros and cons of certain aspects and everything. These have given me a much more understanding of the student community at large, with various cultural backgrounds and everything. Basing on this and the project management skills which I have obtained, so I have utilized these for answering certain domains in specific. First, I've gone into the academics, then I've come into the administration aspects. Through these skills, I had tried to fulfill certain new initiatives at various places which I had joined and gone ahead. And in this phase, I have discovered certain aspects, like there are various untapped sectors in research aspects, which in Indian diaspora, I'm talking about the award the grant which I got from my International Affairs and Trade. So we have started working on a startup which is on wave energy aspect, and I have done a back-end secondary research and everything, through which I have explored that IIT Madras is one such institution where the research has been going on. Using that, we have tied up with IIT Madras, and we have gone ahead with the research. And we have applied for the grant through the Australian Alumni Grant Scheme, which is of 2022, which we got it. It was of 20,000 AUD grant. And we have utilized that grant for exploring the research aspect. So the research aspect is one thing which I would say in Australia, they give a much of an importance and everything. And the students could explore how the academia and the research aspect, even if you have certain interest in certain field and you're not from that particular domain, but you could explore those opportunities with the faculties over there and try it on a real field and get it on board. And the entrepreneurship support also, which you get in various universities, not only RMIT or Monash, the government support also, which you get is quite good, similar to our Indian government. So I would say the students could explore their interests if they're in research. If they are not in research directly themselves, and if they have idea, they could reach out to the faculties and present those ideas, and they could help them in building up that particular aspect. That in that way, I would say project management has helped me out to reach out to various things. And my present role as a deputy registrar, so it's more of an organizing the various daily activities of an institution and managing the aspects, academics, regular administration, and other aspects. It's similar to how a management graduate has been doing it. So it has been a much more of a practical experience which I've gained over there, which I'm executing over here in my present role.
Thank you, Karthik. As we move towards concluding the panel, we'll have the last question with our panelist, Ayushi over here. So Ayushi, how did you happen to navigate through the, the challenges in higher education? Initially, when you started all of these things, from your bachelor's to your master's, what you're doing now, and how did you overcome them from, also taking responsibilities of, the student representation, the academic board at a point of time?
Yes, thank you. I think there are no shortage of challenges and obstacles you'll face. Being the first in my family to do university in Australia and do an arts degree and study something that was honestly different meant that I didn't have many people in my life that I could ask or talk to. But when I came to Monash, that's when I realized that I had to start talking to people, in classes, or people who I would meet at lunchtime, or whoever I came across, I would start conversations and just ask them. And I learned so many things from them, like how to structure my course map, or what a course map was, or how to ask for an extension, or how to find this reading. There were so many things that I was eager to learn and know, but I just didn't. So talking to people was the main thing. And also realizing that at university, this is a time when you probably are going to meet the most diverse group of people you have ever met. You're going to meet the most people you've ever met. So learning to embrace your differences and learn a little bit more about who you are has been really, that was really pivotal for me. And just embracing opportunities and things which came my way was one way that I kind of got over challenges. Being committed to the goal, but not necessarily how I was getting to that goal, was also important for me. So knowing that I wanted to end up in sustainability, or wanting to end up making a difference in this space, but so many things came along the way and taught me things, gave me skills, whether that was jobs or clubs or other leadership opportunities. So I just said yes to those things. And in terms of taking up further responsibilities at the academic board or in student unions, again, talking to my fellow students, talking to mentors. I reached out to Susie at one point as well. I said, how do you sit on a board and how do you actually make change? Because I was struggling at first. So I think knowing that no one starts as an expert, you all start from the bottom, you all start from the beginning, and you just have to learn to embrace the mistakes and have that growth mindset, because that's the only way you'll overcome challenges. Yeah.
Thanks, Ayushi. From the inception of the special address to having the panel discussion, I'm sure this has been very productive in terms of, being very informative to everyone over here. And I think we have all been listening very patiently to each other in understanding the context of what is higher education all about in Australia. So we get a clear understanding that, the open culture is very important in terms of reaching out to people, engaging with your peers, because tomorrow, in terms of learning, it's all about starting somewhere and, getting to know each other and, building the cross culture relationship. That's very important, we feel, when you go out in a foreign land, like Dr. Indra ma'am said in her special address. And all of these things connect to what Mr. Raul mentioned, that it is very important in terms of India-Australia relations. All of these add on to terms of how students being onboarded travel to a country like Australia, get to learn things and share. And that's when the government picks up different remarks. And I'm sure we'll be passing on all of these points to Mr. Raul as well. Personally, I'll convey with him, because this is very important, that the outcome of such an important webinar should be taken forward to a government representative. That could be very important at a nation. Most importantly, a panelist, Dr. Susie, Dr. Parvinder, Mr. Sai Karthik, and Ayushi. So glad you guys could have made it this evening. And I'm sure we had a bit of time constraints, so we had to make sure that we could not go with the next question, but I think overall it covered the entire thing. And I think it came from all your individual lenses in terms of what it is very important. While I was just starting with my partner convener, my fellow convener, Mr. Naveen, who we have been organizing events together, we just had a quick chat that we should be doing more of these meets quite often. And we plan to onboard every institution in India to come and understand such kind of important topics, what it could be of higher education in Australia. And with the support of all our partners across the world, panelists and special address, I request you to please help us in taking this at a larger, word of mouth forward to all of your fellow colleagues, your friends, and people who this can be very important for them to understand about something. So as we conclude in the next couple of minutes, I'd like to know, do our audiences have any questions over here for a panelist? Maybe we can take one or two brief questions. If you have, please do raise your hands.
Probably we can take the questions in offline and we can address Shreyas.
Yeah, right. So we'll have it, email to a panelist. So I think I'd like to ask a panelist, would it be okay for the audiences to reach out to you on email and LinkedIn as well, so they can connect with you and explore opportunities and have a conversation? Yeah. Okay, perfect. That would be great. Naveen, over to you to quickly, bring over the closing remarks and the vote of thanks for today evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we already crossed 2 more minutes than our scheduled time. So not to make much more delay, I thank everybody, especially Indra ma'am, for joining us and sharing us insightful how cross-cultural programs we can achieve and what is the importance and how we can respectfully be together and learn together, grow together. So ma'am, thank you so much for being with us today and giving your insightful thoughts. Yeah, so thank you so much. And panelists, without you guys, I think you are the pillars for today's program. So as me and Shreyas were chatting in the side by while having this conversation, so what we thought is, why don't we take up this in a very larger picture? Because from Trikhi Sutantra, we are well connected with a lot of educational institution across Karnataka and India. So I think the students of India love to get connect with you all guys to hear more from you. I think that because of the time constraint, we couldn't hear much information about you and your experience. So probably we can get connect back to back again and have such kind of a programs in future. So that is what we have planned, and I think positively we will also get support from you all to make this happen in future. So thank you all, especially Susie, Parvinder Kaur, Sai Karthik, Ayushi for joining us. And not but not least the supporter. I think we must appreciate all the the people who are standing behind this program and bringing the students, bringing the collaborations all together. So thank you each and everyone to make the program happening. And once again, thank you all. I'll be posting the link, the feedback link for the students. So where you can also have a slot of asking a question if you have anything. So we'll try our best to get the answer and share with you all separately. So once again, thank you all. Shes, thank you so much for hosting the entire show. So on behalf of International Women Technology and Research Forum, 3Q Sutantra and Project Bodhan, I thank you all. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Namaste.